Okay, so we're recording, so we can go ahead. So our first item on the is the roll call. Commissioner Bradbury. You're muted. Well, he's here. We know he signed in.
He stepped away.
Okay, Commissioner Soltis.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Snodgrass.
Here.
And we're waiting on Commissioner Jordan. I expect he'll probably join us late today. And we have our staff members here. So we're ready to go. Next item is approval of minutes from the November 17th meeting. Do I have are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion for approval of minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion is approved unanimously, and Commissioner Jordan has just joined us. Okay, the next item of business is public comment, and it does not appear we have anyone in the waiting room for public comments.
I do not see any, though we have no attendees for the meeting this evening.
Okay, then I'll dispense with reading the statement on that one. And we'll move on to our agenda item, which is the 2023 budget review. And Carl, that's your department.
All right, great. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commission. I would like to preface this by first saying that I am not the budgetary expert, and I do not purport to be. And so the idea behind this presentation really is just to, one, show you where the budget is located so that you'll be able to access it for yourselves and pour through it at your leisure. And two, to sort of orient you to how the budget is sort of laid out. And then to look at the community development section of that budget, we can to kind of go through that step by step at this meeting. And really this is, and some commissioners will remember that last year we did this with Katrina, and it sort of set us up to start thinking about our work program for the next year. So the budget sort of driving what would end up on that work program likely. Of course, this year we know is going to be largely comprehensive plan periodic update. We will primarily be working on, but there might be a few other things that end up on that work program as well. So that's kind of that's the setup. Anybody have any questions or thoughts or additions they want to add to that? Okay, let me figure out how to share my screen here.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Bear with me one moment.
Bear with me one more moment. Sorry, it's not showing me the screen that I want to show you. Give me 1 second here.
Is that a Kraken hat, Jason? Oh,
Sir, that is a Gig Harbor High School.
oh.
I figured that'd be the only one that would be appropriate to wear.
All right, now it should show up. There we go. Okay, that's odd. It's not happened before. Okay. All right, there we go. Everybody should be seeing the Gig Harbor, City of Gig Harbor homepage. Yeah, okay, great. Sorry about that. I don't know why it wasn't showing up on the share screen, but so this is our landing page for City of Gig Harbor. Most of you, I'm sure, have looked at this. So to get to the budget document, so let me back up just a moment. The budget was presented and read a second reading this past Monday by council, and they voted to approve with a couple of amendments. The amendments that they made will be relative to some feasibility studies, additional feasibility studies for the sports complex, phases 2 and 3. So those will show up in the final document, and also just to let you know that the final document then is in the process of being combed over with a fine-tooth comb to dot the I's and cross the T's, and make sure that everything is, presented properly, and to add in, of course, those couple of amendments. So I would expect that the final document will be ready probably early next week or mid next week, something like that. So to get to the budget, you'll want to go to this departments tab up here. If you just kind of hang over the top of it, it'll drop this down. Scroll down to finance and city budgets. So it's got all of our, a good portion of our past budgets here that you could link to, the 2022 budget. And note that the preliminary, and it says preliminary because it's still in a preliminary state, but it's been adopted by council. 2023, 2024. So we're back to a biennial budget. You can see for past budgets that in 2019, under former administration, we went back to an annual budget. So we were budgeting every year. We're going back to a biennial budget now, so budgeting for 2 years. So that's what this budget represents. To get kind of a good overview of the budget itself, I would recommend reading the mayor's message. This gives kind of a broad overview of what we've done and where we're going in the view of the mayor. And she also notes that we have this 2-year strategic plan, which is something that we didn't have in past budgets, and as a guiding document that the council has put together, which is what we're trying now to sort of base all of our actions on. And so going back to that strategic plan and making sure that we're connecting just about everything that the city does to one of those strategic plan items. And this is a good segue into talking about what the comp plan should be doing for the city, and what it's not really doing for us today is that it should be the guiding document for us. The strategic plan should sort of work its way out of that comp plan, really. And so I think in this periodic update, I think that's one of our charges, the planning commission and staff, is to figure out how we can sort of lay that groundwork for the council to be able to come back and look at the comp plan and pull their 2-year strategic plan from it. And in that way, we're all working, off of the same sheet of music. But she notes a few of the strategic plan items that the council had passed here: foster healthy city organization, ensuring a sustainable future, maintaining small town character, historic preservation, promoting environmental sustainability, and promoting and enhancing a dynamic and robust economy. All things that I think as planners and commissioners we can really support and get behind. She also then discusses a little bit about how this biennial budget is laid out, noting that it's a new layout. It has a bit of a new look. Some of the things are the same from the past budget, but a little bit different. And of course that it's a 2-year budget rather than just a single year. And then she talks about some of the things that we did in the past year in 2022. And one of those things, one of the big things that we did is we filled a ton of vacancies for employees. And she notes 23 new hires in 2022, which is kind of crazy, really, when you think about it. So you can just imagine what our HR department has looked like this year and what they've been going through. It's been a lot, but it feels good. I'll tell you from a staff perspective that we have these positions filled. We've gotten a lot of really great people, and it really, from a management perspective, it feels we're really feeling stable right now. Really feeling stable. So it's great, and really looking forward to going into 2023 feeling that way.
Mr. Jordan has a question.
Thank you, Commissioner. I was just curious, how many employees does the city have?
I think we have 100, it's 110 positions.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Which I
Thank
think
you.
when I started here in 2015, we had, I think it was in the high 90s someplace. So we've added quite a few. And that's a great question, Commissioner Jordan, because as part of this, scrolling down just a bit, well, in just a moment, I'll touch on that, but we're increasing that number just a bit as a part of this budget. The mayor also reports back on a few of the other things that we've done this year, including the community paddlers dock at Ansich Park, the storage facility down at the same park, the first phase of the sidewalks along 38th Avenue design at least has been done. The Harborview Stinson roundabouts, of course, we're all aware of. And then, of course, the Eden Boatyard Brick House rehabilitation, which has been a big one. The city also purchased a couple large properties near the wastewater treatment plant. And in fact, just purchased a third. So there's 3 properties over there now. Part of what will be coming down the pike relative to those properties, which is fairly interesting, is that there's going to be a connection made between Donkey Creek Park, those properties, and the Cushman Trail. So it's going to be a really cool complex, a really nice amenity for the community once all is said and done. So now getting into a few highlights of the 2023-2024 biennial budget, and getting to Commissioner Jordan's question about how many folks we have working here at the city. Right there, 110 employees regularly. But we're adding a few positions as part of this budget. We're adding creating a new position, which is the Risk Management and Safety Officer that would work directly with Human Resources. We're adding a Senior Accountant position. We'll be adding 4 new police officers since as our population grows, we need more people. And we're adding a project manager position. That's a brand new position that will be in the Public Works and Engineering side of things. And that project manager is meant to help mostly with capital projects, but would also help some with private development as well. Right now they have some engineering technicians working on things, and they have engineering assistants over there that are working on things, but this would be somebody who could actually take and even go after grants, but then manage that grant for a capital project from beginning to end of the project. So it'll really take a lot off of some of their plates down there and give some of the others who are doing the more technical work, get them an opportunity to stay more focused on that kind of work. So that's going to be an awesome position. Everybody's really looking forward to that, and all of those positions actually. And then here's a few of the capital improvement projects that'll be coming up. HVAC upgrade for the Civic Center. This building was built in 2002. And the HVAC system here suffers greatly. I don't know if maybe Commissioner Krosik, you can feel that it's a bit chilly maybe in this room. But
Actually, it was kind of warm.
oh, are you? Okay, never mind. It's a bad example. The rest of us are kind of chilly, but the system really fails pretty often, and so it is something that the Civic Center really needs. And there's a few other things that this building is in desperate need of, but that's a big one. And so they're bringing in a consultant actually to help with that upgrade. Public Works Operations Center, of course, I'm sure you're all aware of that. That's been going on for a really long time. We have an operations center currently, but there's been in the works for a very long time a new building built on a property nearby the original operations center, which, if nobody's familiar, that's over on Busich, just past the new elementary school that used to be the Boys and Girls Club.
Mhm.
On the same side of the road. So the operations center sits back there behind some wetlands. There's another property back there that's owned by the city, and we've designed a new operations center so we'll have the old one will remain, but the new one will be more for offices, and so sort of the administrative side of things. They don't really have anything like that out there. So and then it'll have some other amenities associated with it as well, but we're real close to actually being able to break ground on that project. The Burnham Drive, Prentice Fenimore Street, and 38th Avenue roadway improvements. I don't have a lot of background on those, but that's mostly relative to sidewalks and bike lanes. Sports Complex Phase 1B, I think you're all aware of that one. That's a big project. Public Works is very close to submitting applications for Phase 1B. And as we understand it, the YMCA, who per their lease agreement on the Phase 1A portion of that project, is also pretty close to being ready to submit application for Phase 1A. So and Phase 1A would be the sports fields on the north side of the sports complex. Phase 1B is the smaller section that has the pickleball courts, the child or kids playground, bocce ball courts, and the performance stage and things like that. So that's really exciting. Really looking forward to getting that going. Well number 9 development and lift station 5 basin improvements. So there's a couple big capital projects that are going on there. Soundview Drive water main replacement, and then the Burnham Drive culvert replacement, which that's ongoing, but we've got one up around 96 that's happening. And then there will be the one at Donkey Creek Park, which if anybody doesn't know, there's a large box culvert that runs under Burnham right there at Donkey Creek Park that's not fish passable at the moment. So salmon are not able to get through Donkey Creek Park and then upstream into North Creek. This project would propose either a large culvert to replace the one that's there, bringing it back down to the grade with the stream to allow salmon to get upstream, or it would be a bridge that would do even more. And I think council is leaning towards the bridge idea. That then would also create the path from Donkey Creek into those new properties that the city just purchased. So very exciting project.
Carl, there's been a project on Burnham Drive that looks like they're laying pipe
Oh,
through
yeah.
there. What is that?
That is Puget Sound Energy is running a gas pipe from their shaving plant over on Busich. They have a plant over there right next to Latitude 47, the large commercial project over there. And they are running pipe through the city and out to, what's the, not Bainbridge Island, but the one that's closer to us.
Vashon?
Vashon, thank you. Yeah, Vashon Island. So it's called the Vashon Island Resiliency Project, I want to say. And it's meant to get natural gas out to the island, and I think it's creating redundancy in the system, because right now I believe if there was anything catastrophic that happened to one line, that they wouldn't have any other way to get gas out to the island, is what I understand. So our part of that has been pretty minimal, other than of course they're tearing up our roads, and we had to do some environmental work on that, of course, as well. But yeah.
Hey, Carl, I add something here because I heard at the study session this afternoon about the Burnham Drive. Because as a commissioner, sometimes I get asked questions about the specific details of stuff that I have no idea is even happening. It's kind of embarrassing, but that's just kind of the way that it works, I suppose. But they mentioned that Burnham Drive will be resurfaced over the next year or so. I think after the PSC does its work, they will have to, clean up that work, and then I think that's kind of a long-term being in a year's time frame. They're going to try to be working on Burnham Drive for a repaving project. Can you validate that? Or do you have knowledge?
Yeah, that is true, and there will be some widening relative to sidewalks. So we've got a sidewalk project that'll be running up from Donkey Creek. I believe it's as far north as the roundabout, at least the first phase. And then I can't remember if we have the other part designed to go further north, but there will be, sidewalks running all the way up Burnham eventually. to connect, at least connecting Harbor Hill Drive with the downtown. So that of course, then we would be as part of it. I would imagine that there would be there's an overlay piece of that for the rest of Burnham as well. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Soltis? I know it's not exact. I mean, I don't know
Oh,
the
no,
project.
that's good, yeah.
Definitely.
Second part of it, Carl, was the culvert replacement. That by Donkey Creek, that's gonna be a pretty darn big job. Is the funding in place for that, or is that dependent upon getting some more state money from another source or two?
From what I understand, we have question. There is grant funding out there that we'll be needing to apply for. So I don't think not all the money is not lined up for it yet, but we're at the point where we're getting parametrics under contract to do the feasibility and design work, and that money is budgeted for. You're
Great,
right.
thanks.
It's going to be a really big project.
Commissioner Jordan.
I think Commissioner Saltis just asked my question, which was, is it fully budgeted?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to find some more money, and I wish I had more information for you on where what those grants are that they'll be going after, but there's some large grants out there. There's money out there largely because it's a fish pass. It's a fish. It is a fish passage project, right? So there are a lot of funds out there at the state level and at the federal level that we can tap into to get that job done. So it's a definitely on the priority list. And I think it's pretty exciting. Okay, I'll move on. I don't know, we can't see all of the commissioners. So let's see, just making sure there's no other hands raised. Doesn't look like it. All right, I'm going to move on. Okay, so let me move then to that's not the page. Sorry. So community development. So I wanted to just this is how when you're going through the budget, each one of the departments has a chapter like this within the budget. Of course, there are lots of earlier on in the budget, there are lots of tables and graphs and flow charts and things that I would encourage commissioners to go and pour through if you like that kind of thing. And I'll also say that if you have questions about any of those figures or policies that you find throughout the budget, please send them my way and I will get you answers to your questions. But I'll have to, like I said at the beginning, I'm not the expert, so I don't want to misinform anybody at a public meeting like this. So I would rather that you send me your questions. I can go get the answers from our finance director or from the finance team and make sure that I'm giving you accurate information. So in each section for departments, we kind of have this chapter where we go through what we do. So in community development, of course, we've got building and fire safety as one division, and then we have a little further down we have planning as the second division. So two divisions in community development. And so what this does, it just gives a quick overview of what each division does. I'm not going to belabor it. You all have a pretty good idea of what we do, but it's sort of an introduction for those who don't know what each division does, and it maybe is more interesting, and maybe some other divisions are more interesting than ours. But this gives you kind of a general idea, and I don't think there's anything in here that you wouldn't expect to see. If there is, please let me know. Then we have a budget overview, and this budget overview is relatively generic in the sense that it doesn't drill down into the meat and potatoes of how much we're spending on training or how much we're spending on supplies or things, although it does have supplies here, I guess, overall. But how much we spend on, particular line items that are sort of captured within each of those accounts. But it gives you sort of an idea of how much we've spent in the past and again, now where we're going. Note that the number looks much bigger for total expenditures for 23-24, but also note that it's a biennial budget as opposed to a single year. That caught me the first time I looked at the budget. I have to.
I was
I'll
going to
admit,
ask you about that.
I got caught on that one, and I didn't look smart. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there for you. So it's not quite as it's a little deceiving in that way. And then we've got some budget notes here. This capital outlay that includes the vehicle, one vehicle purchase. The planning division is going out to try and find a vehicle to replace the one that we have, which is barely running at this point. It runs great, actually. It just doesn't drive all that well. It's in pretty bad shape. It's an old truck, not a lot of miles on it, but it's been beat on over the years. The problem we're having, though, I was trying to order it this year, and then we would pay for it out of the 2023 budget. But we're trying to get an electric vehicle or a hybrid at a minimum, because we're trying to go to that in our fleet. We want to electrify our entire fleet eventually over the next 20 years or so. But you can't get them. They don't exist. And in fact, the building department or division ordered a hybrid Ford Escape in January. We were supposed to get it in March, then we were supposed to get it in July, and then they said we're going to get it in December. Well, we found out last month that we're not getting it. They said, forget it. They're not even going to build it. It doesn't exist at this point. So you'll have to reorder it in 2023 if you want it. Another anecdote, the police department had been waiting on a new cruiser all year. It was en route to the city. It fell off the truck and was destroyed. And so we won't be seeing that car either. So it's been a challenge to get cars. So we'll see how that goes.
They can't make this stuff up, Carl.
No, you really can't. I mean, this supply chain thing is real. It's a real problem. It's just, it really is unbelievable. But there are bigger problems in the world to complain about, I suppose. Okay, and so after that, then we get into some objectives. And for this biennial budget, we've got 4 main objectives, and most of them will be captured, or the 3 of them I think will be taken care of, or hopefully taken care of in 2022. That's our climate action plan, and of course that is grant funded. So that's coming fully out of a grant that we received from Commerce. We're getting underway with that project. We have Cascadia Consulting Incorporated. We have a signed contract from them. We just have to get that to council for approval, and then we'll be able to kick that project off. Really excited about that project. It's going to be great. The next one is our middle housing and racial equity analysis and housing needs assessment. We have this $30,000 that is coming from a grant from Department of Commerce as well that we're putting into that program. There's actually another $30,000 that I don't think we have captured in this budget. And that is because, and I noted it here. So SHAPE was awarded another grant that was sort of in the name of the city of Gig Harbor. So there are a number of jurisdictions here in the South Sound that are pooling our grant dollars together to give to the South Sound Affordable Housing Partners, which is what SHAPE stands for, in order for them to hire a consultant to do the middle housing work that we're required to do under state law. So we'll be a part of the project and we'll get a product out of the project, but it's nice because SHAPE is taking the lead on administering the work that the consultant will do. So that's a really nice benefit. SHAPE is turning out to be a really, really great partnership. And that reminds me that I would like to bring them in to have them do a presentation for you guys at some point soon.
Yeah.
I think that would be really good. I'll reach out to them about that.
Carl, I interject one thing here. The presentation last meeting, one of the presenters mentioned that there's a possibility of getting an additional block of money for a climate action plan, should we need it. Did I hear that right?
I made a note of that too, Commissioner Soltis, and I meant to follow up on it. I'm going to ask Roxy to follow up on that. It's on my to-do list. But I heard that too, and that was the first I had heard of that. I know that there's supposed to be some additional grant monies that will be released in the coming year, or hopefully in the coming year, from Commerce for the comp plan periodic update. That's been the word, that's been the rumor out there, that there will be more money released for that. But that was the first I'd heard about climate. So we will be paying very close attention to that, and we'll be on top of it if it comes in. But I'll find out. I'll have Roxy look into it. I'll try and I'll remember to report back.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so that's our housing grant, and then the big one here, the 2024 comprehensive plan periodic update, $350,000. 125,000 of that is coming from that Commerce grant. That's going to be split up between. We have some of it available now, although we still haven't really received the contract from Commerce. They're still working on that apparently. So, but we're technically supposed to be able to backdate billing back to July 1st once we, or invoicing, once we get the contracts in place. And then there's supposed to be another set of funds released in June of next year that will make up that 125. And then the city is putting in the rest of that 350,000. That 350,000 will get us, hopefully, will get us the entire comprehensive plan periodic update, to include, we're hoping, transportation modeling, which is a big cost. And so that's what we're working on right now with the consultant, is to kind of come to an agreement on the scope and budget for the project, to make sure that we can hit what we are trying to spend on it. And we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. For a frame of reference, when we updated the transportation plan, which is the transportation element of our comp plan, they're one and the same now. In 2018, when we did that update just to the transportation plan alone, and it was a full overhaul of it really, so I should say it wasn't just an update, but it was about 350,000 on its own, just by itself. So we're trying to work with the consultant to figure out what that scope looks like, what we have to do. The good news for us is that that was just in 2018 when we did that transportation update. So a lot of our data and a lot of the goals and policies that are found within that element and within the transportation plan are still relatively new. So we may not have to, we're not reinventing that wheel, so to speak. So we think that budget may work. No pun intended, Commissioner Soltis. And so, of course, the 2024 comprehensive plan periodic update is going to make up the large majority of our work and take up a lot of our time over the coming years, next 2 years. And then we have the urban forestry management plan. And this work's already underway. It was part of the 2022 work program for us. We have Davey Consulting Group working on that plan. They've done a ton of work to date already, and I've been real impressed with the work that they've done. They're a really great partner. Roxanne Robles, our senior planner who's managing that project, just went to an urban forestry conference in Seattle and just learned a whole bunch of really cool things relative to urban forestry. And Davey was at that conference as well, and they were actually one of the sponsors of the conference. So a lot of the things that she learned there, we're starting now to nudge Davey and say, okay, are those things are going to be in our urban forestry plan, right? So it was kind of cool to see some of this stuff out there and see how some of the jurisdictions are using it, and then to see how we're going to be able to hopefully integrate that into our own plan.
Carl, will we be involved with the urban forestry plan?
You wouldn't typically, at least not with the plan itself. Now, that would be, I think, that would be a council question, whether or not they wanted to direct that plan to you for review in some manner. What you would be involved in potentially are any of the implementation side of things that come out of the plan.
Okay.
So for zoning code changes, and also you will have this plan available to us to use in our comp plan too. So for the comp plan update, but you know, a lot like the the urban growth area analysis, Planning Commission was involved in reviewing that, as I recall. Am I correct on that?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So let me double check on that. I don't know for sure. I mean, let me say this, there's no nexus, no legal nexus for you to review it. But if the council chose to ask you to review it or directed Planning Commission to review it, then of course we would bring it to you. So let me check in with, that would be a question for the mayor and Katrina, city administrator. Okay, and then we get into some 2022 highlights. So things that we did, and this is going to be true across the board, as I said, for all of the departments. There will be these highlights of things that we accomplished for the year, and then some goals below that. And so again, I don't think I'll belabor this. If you all want to take a look through it and then let me know if you have questions about anything that you find in there, you shoot me an email and I'm happy to provide any clarity or explanations of any of these things. Let me go through the goals though really quick, because I think those are, you know, again, getting back to this idea of trying to formulate our work program, Planning Commission's work program for the next year. I think these goals start to kind of get into it. And, increasing staff access to training, so maybe not you, but again, electrifying the department's fleet, establish process and procedure for code compliance program, update Gig Harbor Municipal Code, support that new code compliance program. And let me touch on that just briefly in case some of you don't know. You know, we now have a full-time code compliance officer. For a long time, we had a 0.4 FTE, I think is what he was. And he was the community services officer. And so he worked for the police department, for instance. He was sort of the evidence technician and wore a few other hats over there as well. And then he was working for the court in court security, so our municipal court here at the city. And then he was working for community development as our code compliance officer. So just those three jobs. I feel like he had a fourth that I'm missing, but anyway, those three are the big ones. So we had one position with at least three bosses and working part-time throughout. So before we had that though, and that started right when I got here in 2015. Before that, we didn't have a code compliance officer at all in Gig Harbor. And so the planners were sort of tasked with picking up any code cases that came up. And so in addition to all of our other tasks, we had these code enforcement tasks on our plate. And so of course, not a lot of code enforcement was happening because we just didn't have time to focus on it. And I'll say, well, Adam's been doing it, or in his capacity as community services officer, he could only spend so much time and so much focus on it as well. Now we have a full-time position for code compliance. He's full-time in community development, and he's closing cases. He's able to respond and initiate cases very quickly. So we're seeing a real benefit from that. Let's see. Let me just see if there's anything else in here. Oh, we're looking to potentially establish a planning intern program. So working with we've been talking with a couple of the local universities about potentially getting sort of a bit of a pipeline going with them. We've had interns here in the past, not since I've been at the city, but before I got here, there were planning interns once in a while. I'd like to get something going with one of the local universities so that it's more of it's more regular, and help those students get kind of a leg up on their resumes, benefiting the city in some way, but also really benefiting them and benefiting planning in general and getting young people more interested in the career path. Let's see, adopting climate action, conduct housing needs. One of the things that we're looking to do, and we've started this year, is to form a historic preservation commission or board. So right now we have 2 members on our design review board. Our design review board sort of acts as our historic preservation board as it stands. But they don't meet regularly at all to talk about historic preservation. Right now, we don't really have anybody in the city or any body or entity or person, staff member or anyone with their thumb on historic preservation at all times. I manage it loosely, but we don't have a body. So we are a certified local government under the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation. That allows us to tap into grant funding through that department, through that state department, if and when we ever needed it. In order to maintain that status, in order to meet their guidelines, we have to have a historic preservation board. The city, when we became a CLG, certified local government, we named our design review board that body, but the design review board does not act as a historic preservation board by definition, per the strict state's definition. We have 2 members on the design review board that are sort of our historic preservation members of the design review board, and they have to be present if anything is brought before them relative to historic preservation, which would be the way we do things now. The only thing that comes before them is a certificate of appropriateness, which is a term used when we want to make a change to a structure that is on our local registry. So for instance, and maybe I'm going too far here, stop me if I'm going too far. For instance, the Eden Boathouse down on the waterfront, if we want to change a window or change the roof line or do something like that to that property, we have to get a certificate of appropriateness approved through that board. Sorry, long story short, we need a historic preservation body that is dedicated to historic preservation in order to meet what we are required to do to maintain our CLG status. So that's what we're working on. Sorry, wow. Records management planning, update the Gig Harbor Municipal Code zoning and environment titles as necessary. Okay, so that of course is stuff that will have to happen as a result of the comprehensive plan work that we do. We'll be required to make updates to our zoning code and also our environment code 1808, especially critical areas. A couple of long range plans. We don't have a lot here. It's kind of hard to see too far out, especially with just this biennial budget, because we're really going to be so focused on the periodic update for 2024. So another commission that we're looking to create, and this will likely be a recommendation that comes out of our urban forest management plan, and that is a tree board. A lot of cities have a tree board. So we're going to be looking into that long range, and then digitizing all archival records. All of the chapters have a flow chart such as this that kind of goes through our personnel in each of the divisions and departments. So it's kind of interesting to take a look at. We have all of these positions filled in our department except for the building assistant. We had a person in that position, but they just resigned. So that's one that we'll be needing to fill. Oh, and I should say also my old position, which is the principal planner. We have interviews set up for that next week. So hopefully we'll have somebody in that position real soon. And that will be the person who will meet with you more often probably than me going forward. Sadly.
We'll miss you.
Yeah, I'm still going to come in. I can't help myself. I just love talking to you guys, obviously. Okay, then that goes into Public Works, and that sort of concludes my presentation and what I wanted to give you guys here. I could go and just continue talking forever, but I don't think it would be very useful. So,
Commissioner Brown.
Carl, how many direct reports do you have then in the, in your division?
to me,
Yeah,
I have just the community development clerk, Jamie, code enforcement officer, the principal planner, and the building official, just 4.
oh, I see. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Commissioner Soltis.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on something the chairman brought up about the urban forestry plan. Carl, I wanted to ask you, will the urban forestry plan results help to inform the comprehensive plan update?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if that's the case, then I would think that the commission ought to have a little bit of involvement in that actual plan as it gets developed, rather than simply kind of getting it at the end of the process as a done deal. So I'd throw my vote towards in that regard. When you talk to, well, I'm not sure the rest of the commissioners think that's good, but in my opinion, that would be a smart thing to do if we're going to have the comp plan responsibility, that we ought to kind of inject ourselves if we need to throughout the various elements.
I agree with you, Commissioner Soltis, and I made a note to follow up on that. I think it's a good point, and it's not a point lost on me. I had considered that previously as well. Once we kind of get to a point where we have something, I think it would behoove the city to bring it at least for a couple of study sessions to the Planning Commission to get your thoughts. Something akin to what we did with the urban growth area analysis, which was really useful to get your feedback on that. Some of those changes were really important, I think. So I will follow up on that, and I'll get back to the chair.
Yeah, that would be my feeling as well. So,
Okay.
Second point, it kind of goes in the category of, maybe I'm sorry I even bring this up, but I didn't see on your work list anything about short-term rentals, Carl. Is that getting resolved outside of the budget cycle?
Yeah, well, it's not a budgetary item, and I didn't include, let's see, I don't think I really included anything in our highlights relative to zoning code. It's really kind of a zoning code change, or an amendment to Gig Harbor Municipal Code. I'm really looking at this more as, I suppose, more as long-range plans and departmental updates, efficiencies. But maybe that's a good point for future budgets, actually.
Well, it's
But it
probably a
is-
big
so-
staff drain on your time.
Sorry.
It's probably a fairly large drain of your staff time to work that problem to resolution. It has been, I'm sure, up to this point.
It has, yeah. No, that's a really good point. I certainly could have included that in this highlight list, and it is something that will be concluded in 2023, hopefully early in 2023.
Thank you, Carl.
other questions of Carl? Okay, thanks very much, Carl.
You're welcome. Let me stop sharing my screen here.
And then, so I guess we're on to other business, and we're going to have a get-together here. And one of our members has made all the arrangements on that, so we hope to see you all, get to meet all of you in person. That will be very nice for us to actually get to do that.
Well, Chair, if I may ask a question about that. Well, 2 questions. Um, The arrangements I have made are for Sunday, the 11th at Round Table Pizza in the Olympic Village Mall there. Is there anyone who wouldn't be able to make that time and date?
It worked for me, Commissioner Brown.
Mr. Brown, what was the time again?
3 until 5.
I think I can do that.
I'm willing to miss one football game.
You only have to miss part of it.
Well, it sounds like there isn't anyone that has a hard conflict, so let's go ahead with that. Now, the second thing I wanted to ask about, Chair, is I saw from the agenda in today's council meeting that a new commissioner has been proposed. I assume that was approved, and how do we get the invitation to him, I guess is the question.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. I had that on my list to bring up here when it became my turn to talk again, but I didn't want to. I've been talking the whole meeting. Great question. So Mark Burkar has been appointed by the mayor, and so the process is appointment and then confirmation by council. So the appointment has been made, and the introduction then was what they did today at the study session. And so then at the next council meeting on the 12th, there will be an ask that council confirm Mr. Burkar to join the commission. And that may even end up that might even be on the consent agenda. I don't know that it will even be an item of discussion at council, but I'm not sure about that yet. I haven't seen the agenda, but I'm guessing it might just end up on the consent agenda. So
I think it would be a friendly gesture to invite him to attend on the 11th and trust that he would be approved the next day.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure I want to get involved in that.
Is there a way you could get his email or phone number to Commissioner Brown?
Are you organizing that, Commissioner Brown, to get together?
Organizing is too kind a term, but I'd be glad to help invite.
Okay,
Mark.
Commissioner Brown, I will get back to you tomorrow. Can I give you a call tomorrow?
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, thanks for organizing this, or whatever you want to call it, gathering it, making it happen. I appreciate that very much.
Well, we look forward to getting to know you better, Jason, and that's the whole point of this gathering.
Okay. Any other comments from the commissioners? If not, Carl, do you have anything else?
I do. I'm just checking the calendar here to see if I can get the date right. So I wanted to ask the board. Sorry, I wanted to ask the commission. We would, if you recall, some commissioners will recall that we did a joint meeting with the city council last year. And it was a really great meeting. I think the council really appreciated it, and I think I believe the planning commission really appreciated it too. And it was good. It was a lot of question and answer, and just kind of a good discussion. And so we would like to do that again. I think we decided last year that we would do it at least annually, and I think we had talked about maybe trying to do it twice a year. But I believe we all, council, I can't remember how that went, but I think we decided that was a little too much. So at least annually, it seems like a good idea. Parks Commission and Arts Commission did this evening at the study session, or today at their study session, virtually. I am wondering if if the planning commission would be able to make it to a study session in January. Now, those are typically around 2:00. And so I recognize that some commissioners that may not work for. And so if that's the case, then we may want to, last year, I think we did it at a planning commission meeting in the evening like this. But I wanted to just gauge what commissioners think about trying to do that at a council study session in January.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yeah, I love the idea. So if it was a study session, that would be in person, we'd all be together.
We are holding council study sessions in person. We have the ability, though, to make them hybrid. So if you were
Great.
unable to make it to the study session, you could certainly join online.
And then what day of the week are those, or do they vary?
Thursdays. And I don't have, I was just trying to pull up this, let me see if I can get the schedule. I think we might have the schedule for January, at least tentative. So I'll see if I can find a date here that might work for it.
Carol, that would be okay if it was in the first couple Thursdays of January, but I'll be gone later in the month.
Okay. Study sessions. January 12th is a potential, and then the next one would be January 26th. And we don't have to do it in January either. We could do it in February if planning commission wanted to. The January 12th study session is already has a few things on it, but we could probably fit something like this in there. January 26th, we don't have a lot, but if you're not going to be there, Chair, then I think we'd probably want to wait until February.
Well, 12th will work for me or February meeting.
But I wanted to get a general sense, and then I'll work on dates, but I wanted to get a general sense from planning commission that they would be able to make something like that happen in sort of midday. So I know it doesn't work for everybody's schedule. And if not, then I would work with administration and with the city clerk to figure out if we could do it at a planning commission meeting.
I'd be good with that.
Yeah, I would support either one of those options.
Jason's good with that. Give a thumbs up.
Great.
Paulson, how about you? You have any preference there?
I should be able to make a midday work even during the week as long as I have a little bit of notice. So as long as I know January 12th or the date in February, I can make that work typically.
Okay,
All right, sounds good.
great. Thank you all very much for that. Let's see, I think I touched on, so Mark Burkar I had here. Interest being confirmed. I brought up that we're working on the contract with Cascadia for the climate action plan. We're also working through the contract with SCJ Alliance for the comprehensive plan periodic update. That's going a little bit slower because they've got a couple of sub-consultants that are the transportation group, Farron Peters, and the transportation modeling group, TSI, that we're having to coordinate with. And so, as I said earlier, we're working through that scope and budget. So we may not be able to get those contracts, that contract at least, in place this year. Council's only meeting once in December. Second meeting's already canceled, so we'll probably be looking into January to get those consultant contracts in place, unfortunately.
Okay, Commissioner Brown.
Carl, there's a contract that's underway, I guess, to address community feedback and the comprehensive plan. And I'm particularly interested in this. And the Planning Commission have played a role in this in past years. Are we going to have a chance to have a look at that and perhaps discuss with the contractor the scope of work or what they're planning to do in that regard?
Well, so we don't have a contract in place. I think we don't have a contract in place for the periodic update of the comprehensive plan at this point. That's what we're working through with SCJ Alliance at the moment.
I thought there was a contract for community feedback, for communication and feedback from the community on the comprehensive plan issues.
Not yet. That's part of
Right.
the same contract that we haven't been able to get in place. We had talked about maybe getting out and starting some early outreach on comprehensive plan, 2024 comprehensive plan, not through any kind of contract, but just staff working on that and getting some mailers out. But we decided to hold off until we got this consultant in place because we don't want to get ahead of what their plan is for that work and confuse people.
And who is managing that portion of that contract?
The outreach portion,
Yeah,
are you referring to the consultant?
no, I'm referring to your staff.
Oh, well, right now it's an all hands on deck. So we've got myself, Robin Bolster Grant, who's a senior planner here in the planning division. Roxanne
Right.
Robles is working on it. And then we also have Laura Pettit, who's our tourism and marketing director. And she does a lot of the outreach for the city, manages all of our social media. She's actually been working already on designing the website. We've got some domain names. We're going to have a separate website that will link from the city's website, but it'll be a separate website just for the 2024 periodic update. And we'll have some branding associated with it as well to make it kind of hopefully more attractive to people to get them more involved in the process.
Yeah, well, that's my interest, and I wonder whether we might consider having a agenda topic at an upcoming meeting to hear some of the thoughts and plans and exchange some views on what could be done in that regard.
Yeah, I like that, Commissioner Brown, and the chair and I were talking just before this meeting started about bringing, once we have SCJ Alliance under contract, Bill Grimes is their principal, and he's been a planner in Washington State for as long as I think a lot of people can remember. He's done a lot of comprehensive planning, a lot of outreach. He's worked in the city before on some other projects. And I would like to bring him in to meet the planning commission early in the process, basically as soon as we get that contract in place, and have that discussion with him in the room as well, so he can hear your thoughts particularly about outreach, but also about visioning, and get some feedback from you on how you see the process going, what you would like your role to be in the process as well. And get it all kind of out on the table early on. And I know Bill would really like to hear all of that as well. So your point is really well taken, Commissioner Brown. I've been thinking about that already.
Thank you.
Other comments from the commissioners? Carl, anything else?
I do not have anything else.
Okay,
John, I have one thing, if I may. It's actually,
Sure.
it's kind of a fun fact. At the meeting this afternoon, the council mentioned something called the Harbor Arbor Art Project that I was unaware of.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a project they're carving stumps and snags in the various parks around town. And at the Granville Forest, apparently there are several of these carvings that I have not seen yet, and I'm gonna head there tomorrow or the next day. So it might be a good little road trip. Tom, we don't have to go as a group, but it might be fun for all of us to see that some of this public art that's springing up across the city.
Yeah, that's a great project, Commissioner Soltis. Thanks for bringing that up. That is something that the Arts Commission is really proud of. And you can see some of the carvings right over off of Stinson. You don't even have to go into the park. They're kind of facing on Stinson. But if you go into the park and kind of past the restrooms, there's some new ones right in there, but a couple that are sort of laying down where they've got a log laying down and they've carved into the log, sort of a scene with some bears, and there's others that are, carved out of, as you said, snags. It was a really cool project.
There's some over here too.
Yeah, right over, that's in Grandview Forest Park
Yeah.
right here. Yeah, there's a bunch in there. So yeah, really, really neat.
Okay. If there's nothing else, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and we are adjourned at 6:35 PM. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carl.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Have a great night.